Hello everybody, as you know I'm Samantha. So my topic here is appropriate technologies for ecologically balanced human societies. And primarily my subheading topic is ethical investing. So what I think the big question in that is really, I think most people would understand what ethical investing is, but I'm going to give you a little bit of background as to how I came to be in this position talking about this subject. So I come from an unusual background. My family created the first restaurant chain in Australia, Pancake Parlour. You may have heard of it in Melbourne. And these are my parents back in 1965, Helen and Alan, who have now passed away. And I no longer work with the company, but I took a lot from my stepfather, Alan, who actually grew up in Midwest Kansas. And I just want to point out that I am neither a farmer nor an academic, and I am actually an artist. This is my artwork. I work in marble and glass and bronze, and so my background is a very unusual one to be standing here in an academic forum talking about ecological economies. So back in 1996-98, you may be aware of mad cow disease, which broke out in England, and we were at the time feeding about 50,000 customers a week. That's $68,000 worth of food, and the Minister of Health in the UK announces this, and I'm like, well, I mean, I was just a fairy, really. I'm an artist. I'm working 70 hours a week in the family business. I'm pregnant with my first child, and I went, what? How on the earth could they be feeding a cow meat? I know nothing about farming or growing anything, but even I went, this is truly curiouser and curiouser. So here I was, surrounded by Alice in Wonderland, and I really did feel like I was stepping out and following the white rabbit down a rabbit hole. And so in taking this theme and thinking about what this particular story talks about, it ironically does seem to talk a lot about these most unusual things that we do on the planet. So my father's history is that he came from 4 generations of wheat farmers, and they actually survived the Dust Bowl that created the stock crash that we all knew about in the 1930s. So he was very aware of the intimate connection between agriculture and economy. So when the mad cow thing came out, we decided I got his permission, his blessing, to research everything that we were doing in the food. And I ended up going on a long journey because of that. I have decided to put into this talk the 4 main points that will be spoken about at the next Davos meeting in January. The first one is how to address the urgent climate and environmental challenges that are harming our ecology and economy. In the eternal tea table of our collective unbirthday, we face decisions that make no sense, but through which we must prevail. So in 2006, I actually was able to buy the first soil carbon credit that got the government interested in soil as an economic credit to offset emissions. I discovered this randomly in my researches at one of the conferences that I was attending, because my family was now sponsoring me. They sponsored me for about 10 years to travel all over the world, attending conferences on organic agriculture. So many of these plenaries I have sat through in countries all over the world. And so I have this very unusual education, eclectic education. I believe firmly that the regenerative agriculture is absolutely a solution to the climate, and it's one that we can all participate in with our shopping dollars. Yes, it's more expensive, but why look to governments that won't move, to economies that don't want to take it on board? So I created Earth as a way to ignite ecological marketplaces that people can find something that they could, to empower them to be connecting to this. So Dr. Christine Jones wrote in 2005 that it was only a 1.5% increase in soil carbon, which is effectively topsoil, over 1.5 million hectares to soak up the carbon that we emit to the extent of about 8 gigatons. We currently do about 10 gigatons. So just to give you a bit of a ratio about that, we do about 1.6 million hectares of wheat, which is a grass. I know everyone talks about trees and forests, but frankly we don't have that much time, and they take an enormous amount of water. We currently have an economically viable crop, which is wheat, to turn the climate around. So we could do it just with Australia, we could soak up 8 gigatons. I want you to kind of get the reality of that, because it's not that much to improve 1.5% in topsoil, but it does mean paying the farmers more, and this is the bit that we don't really take on board. So instead of spending $3 for a loaf of bread, yes, we need to spend $10, and that's kind of the difference that I'm talking about in getting people to be able to recognise this as a truly viable possibility. Okay, so how can we transform industries to achieve more sustainable and inclusive business models as new political, economic and societal priorities change trade and consumption patterns? Well, this is really where I'm sort of segueing into, because I believe it's about rewarding those that stand up and invest in change, and in ways we can get behind doing that. And there are so many models for this. These are some of the little ones that I just tossed up for this talk. The new models for micro markets and localized connections, which I saw in several presentations that are being done. They're wonderful, but we need to actually extend them to be the norm rather than the unusual or the fringe or just a little community thing. They have to start becoming a lot more normal, because the supermarkets and big business that is set up the way they are not going to change doing what they're doing. So it really has to come from us. So farmers markets attendance trends show that consumers that do attend them are primarily there to purchase fresh produce, and they tend to be married females at higher income levels, individuals with strong diet or health concerns, and individuals who are supportive of local farming and agricultural open space. And this is from the International Food and Agribusiness Management Associations. So connecting markets to the food, fibre, plant and animal sources is a starting place. And educating, investing in diversity, I feel, through beauty is the thing that we don't talk about. So because I'm an artist, this is very important to me. So I want to get you to imagine the planet as a painting, and we were to invest in corridors of diversity around the planet. Nature would heal the planet very quickly. We just need to allow her to have a go at it. So I want you to get that idea that the masculine energy is there to protect the feminine energy, and the feminine energy as earth. So we all have the masculine and the feminine within us. So that's why I try to address everything from the viewpoint of, does it meet those metrics of beauty and economic reality. I know that might be a little bit unusual coming into the economic forum, but it seems a bit pessimistic sometimes in these talks, and I wanted to put out there that there's really lots of wonderful people out there doing extraordinary things, and there's more of us than these big bad people out there that are doing the worst things. And it's us that changes politics, it's us that changes business and markets. So we have to actually believe in our own power, our own ability to make these changes. So, third one is how to adapt to the demographic, social and technological trends reshaping education, employment and entrepreneurship. So despite a terrifying confusion of outcomes, investing in yourself, your ideas to create a balance, and to learn how to observe. So this is really, I have been blessed with time for the last 10 years to spend time learning to observe and seeing what I could do to change the way we look at things. So this is the thing that we're working on. So when I look back historically, I see that medicine, land, whatever, the thing that we've done is we cut, we burn and we poison. Something my father told me about normal medicine, because I lived in a family that was into alternative medicine. We definitely need to do it in certain instances, but we've done that on our way towards survival, and for the most part, the bounteous supply of Earth's materials has made this possible. We've thrived as a species, taking us so far from mere survival that we have lost the basic connection to nature as the source of our inspiration. We have the capacity to use this drive and new technology to be inclusive rather than exclusive, which is the reductionist way we, through science, look at things. We have entrepreneurialism, we can bypass conglomerates, we can invigorate local communities, and we can understand our natures and use AI to our advantage. I know that might seem a bit unusual at the moment when everyone's talking about it taking away jobs, but I want you to get the idea that striving towards survival has been the only thing we've really been doing. We try to eradicate menial jobs But the thing that we don't do, that once we've done that, is look at what is the thing that would truly give us purpose and reignite our interest and survival desire and our want and desire to be deliciously engaged with the world around us. And that's because we don't educate it. We don't even think about it in the schools, in the early part of our education. So I'm putting that out into the universe, that you need to think about these things as a way forward, because we will have AI, it will take away a lot of menial things, but it will also engage and make us come alive with possibilities that we may not have realized. How to govern the technologies driving the fourth industrial revolution so they benefit business and society while minimizing their risks to them. Okay, so one of the things that I have discovered in this is that the answers to this are in the earth itself. And I put Tweedledum and Tweedledee here because if you've looked at the story of these two characters down through the rabbit hole that Alice went to, they actually say a lot of unusual, they're characters that represent a kind of a simplistic way of looking at life, yet they are there to help Alice in her way. And she comes a lot across a number of characters in the story that say kind of peculiar things, but each of them are lending in the way that we actually think as humans. We do connect unusual things. We create ideas in dreamlike ways, and we need to allow that to be the possibility. So I'm not standing here saying I have all the solutions. I'm saying we have the solutions. We as a collective have solutions, and we can do this. So I've been working on a system that is a remote and manual system for helping farmers, because my main objective for the climate for me is agriculture, and obviously the biggest problem is that the farmers don't get paid enough to do it. So one of the things that I've been working on is a 4-point system. I work with satellite validation, scanning in field in real time, and communities that work with ecological auditors that will verify produce, and then able to provide a blockchain solution. I also ended up coding and learning Ethereum coding a couple of years back, and this is to provide two forms of markets, one for the market that wants to actually get through the corruption of international trade, and the other one that wants to look at carbon trading to support farmers on the ground with sequestering carbon. So it needs a number of points, and the government hasn't, in 10 years since I bought that first soil carbon credit, there's been the problem with auditing it, and all the auditing systems that are being required by government are just onerously expensive. They just can't do it. So I'm working with a bunch of different people, and I find it really exciting. It's continued to excite me, and I wanted to show you some of them. So these guys are doing scanners that will take soil and immediately test it, so the farmer doesn't have to send the soil off to a wet lab. So they're effectively a wet lab in hand. They can test carbon instantly, they can test pathology, they can test phenotype. So you can effectively, for raw goods anyway, business to business, scan your soil, scan your food, and the end user can scan that same product and see that it is the same product. So it can go through package corruption, it can go through any number of things, and if you base your technology on the genealogy of the land of where it came from and minerals, which unlike vitamins don't break down, you can start to get some really good readings of things that have got an integrity base from farm to fork. So I see this as a really exciting startup coming out that I'm partnering with and am supporting in helping farmers with this. Helps them in lots of ways, but it also helps these other markets. This is one of the markets I'm working on. It's a camel project. I'm just making a small wild fat camel fat soap. The reason I'm working with this project is because the camels, which are a feral animal, and they were at 1.2 million, so the government went, all right, we'll just get rid of them, they're a problem. So they went out and culled them all down to 300,000 of them, which will take literally 30 years to reinvigorate that population again. The thing the camel has that we fail to look at is it's a little bit like a giraffe. It has enzymatic thing within it that not only makes it able to survive 50+ degree temperatures, but it will browse the trees, whereas animals that we traditionally use, like all the other animals that are out there, kangaroos, goats, donkeys, cows, basically there's so many animals out there you don't realise left over from the wars in fairly large numbers, stripping the land and making the problem with the carbon emission area. So I'm working with the satellite guys to prove that this project, which you can see on the ground, is growing grass. Well, you can't see it. You can see that it's in a really, really big dry area. They might get one rain event a year, and yet they are sequestering carbon and growing grasses. So this has tremendous potential for us in Australia, where we've got so much land, by just reinvigorating it. I'm just trying to give you an idea. They had to put a fence in to stop the kangaroos, because the kangaroos are in such large numbers by us pooling water, which is not something that happens in Australia. Normally there's no water around, so there's very few kangaroos. Because we bring water in and we put it in dams and we do all these things, the kangaroo numbers proliferate, and there's no control over the way they completely strip the land. So I just want to show you what the kangaroos do. But when you manage the land, you get that soil doing this. And this is what the camels are doing. By still allowing animals managed moving across the land, nature has always had predators. And we have not realized that we need to be the predator. We need to mimic the predator. So it's not a problem to eat meat, it's a problem the way we grow the animals, the way we manage the animals. They need to be passed across the land. Impact, rest, impact, rest. That is nature's way, and we can easily mimic that, and I'm trying to support farmers that do that basically in a regenerative way. And I just want to point out in this that agriculture is 90% of all agriculture is cropland, plants, and that's really the true problem. It's not what we grow, it's how we grow it. When we grow things as a monocrop, we destroy the ecosystems. So ecologically, we need the diversity, and support of diversity is the really main subcontext of what I'm talking about, and finding a viable financial way to support farmers to do that. So this is just giving you a bit of an overview of how the satellite thing is going to be playing out. It shows the light of the yellow is carbon and the blue is water. Well, basically blue and water. The colours are not, it's not clear enough yet, but this is where I'm working on, is this deciphering of the data and bringing it back to a point where it will read easily and show it. They do measure the carbon overall, and we're trying to show how the management, it does work it out, but I haven't got it simple enough. But I thought I'd throw it into the talk because it's pretty exciting that it's getting out there to be viable enough for the farmer at a cost that they can afford. And so that's the end of my talk. I'd love you to visit earth.io and join for more information, podcasts, things that I'm doing, and just being a part of it. I have just launched an organic dog food from a organic turkey farm, and yes, we're doing turkey orders. They're the most beautiful organic turkeys, and I'm trying to support farmers that are doing kind of wild and quirky things. Anybody got any questions?
Any questions for Samantha?
Yes.
I was interested to hear what you had to say about the wheat. So you're advocating that more field be converted to wheat farms?
No, I'm advocating that existing wheat farms are change the way they grow the wheat, that they need to actually include diversity and animals in the systems to increase carbon sequestration. So the soil becomes compact and hard when you grow a monoculture. So when you include different methodologies, you actually break the soil and allow the roots and the microbes to actually take the carbon out of the atmosphere through the plant. Effectively, a plant does like you know what a plant does. It breathes the carbon in and it puts it in the soil. But it can only do that if you have the microbes in the soil to allow for the exchange in the root structure with mycorrhizal fungi. So it's a really simple biology, in fact, and we just destroy it all the time. It's like every time you use an insecticide, you're stopping what nature is doing, which is saying, hey, there's no sugar in that thing. That's why I can see it as an insect. So the insect actually locates with infrared. It doesn't use smell and all the things we do, because it's meant to eat the food that doesn't have the sugar in it, which is why we're addicted to sugar, because we're trying to get the micro sugars which the plant has within it. So the point of having this in about wheat is that wheat is being as well changed in order to get yields, high yields. So instead of going for high yields, we need to be going for high nutrition by allowing the microbes to proliferate in the soil, so that they can suck the carbon in, because really grasses are fast. Within possibly 1 to 2 years, you could totally reinvigorate soils and make them able to soak up carbon so much faster. So the soil, when it's developed, can hold 4 to 6 times more water, and these things are just not possible with the way we're currently growing things.
So where's the role of vermiculture in that system?
Of vermiculture, worms. The worms will naturally come into the soil when you put the right mixture of animal manures working across the land. That's what the animals do, is they provide the food for all the microbes, including worms, bugs, beetles. The entire ecosystem is there designed to work with the animals.
Thank you for your talk, Samantha. I'm a farmer as well and very interested in these concepts of regenerative farming and a bit of a disciple of Joel Salatin, which you've got no doubt
Yes.
as well. When you refer to your that part of your talk about the camels, and you've fenced off, I may have not understood it, you fenced off a couple of square miles of land, or...
There's a 200,000 hectare properties.
My question is, why wouldn't we be able to achieve the same result with the native flora?
The problem is that you can't manage the kangaroo, you can't herd a kangaroo, you can't keep it off the land. So the native animal, I mean everything else you can except a hopping kangaroo, they're just not herdable. So, and the kangaroo has evolved in a country that's so dry, and it survives in very small numbers. Like even an embryo can stay undeveloped for 7 years in the pouch of a mother if drought is severe. So they're designed to live in extreme conditions, and we've changed those conditions by having water everywhere. So by doing that for our stocks, we've made it impossible to control the numbers of kangaroos. So
I mean, the camel obviously does a lot of damage as well. I mean, it's a hard-hoofed animal.
no, it doesn't. That's the difference. It's not doing damage at all, because it isn't that hard. It's soft as well, and it's just completely designed to work within the desert environments. So these are desert places we're talking about, and they're able to operate because their blood cells, it's not their fat, their blood cells actually don't lose water. They've got a completely different blood system that enables them to survive incredible temperatures with small water. So they can last several hours, 8-10 hours without food.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Samantha. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Sorry for seeing the optimistic